that enters the mind must be washed as closely as the food that enters the body. With this, I welcome you to our topic, which is food safety. Happy learning class. Sarah was thinking as she was eating her breakfast. Suddenly, she asked her mom, "Mom, can my food be unsafe?" "Yes," her mom replied. "How?" she asked again. Sarah's mom explained, "Do you know that food can become contaminated at any point of production, distribution, which responsibilities lies with the producer? Also, improper ways food is handled at home can also cause foodborne disease. Foodborne disease is a disease caused by consuming contaminated food or drink. More so, unclean food service establishments like restaurants or unclean markets can cause food to be unsafe." I asked this question: what proper ways can one food be unsafe, or can one food be safe? Let's find out. We're kicking it off with what is food safety. Let's find out what we mean by food safety. But before then, we look at what do we mean by food. Food is any substance, liquid or solid, which when taken into the body provides materials for energy, growth, and repair of body tissues. Then what is food safety? Food safety is therefore the sanitary rules by which food is handled in order to prevent food contamination, food poisoning, and foodborne disease. It is also the hygienic handling of food to prevent consumption of contaminated food. Apart from the kitchen or personal hygiene, it is important that food is kept clean. So therefore, we must make sure that the food surface purchased are wholesome and free from traces of contamination. Why is food safety important? Food safety is important as it helps to protect a customer from the risks of foodborne illness. It also helps to prevent consumer from the risks of health-related conditions such as allergy or even deaths. Food safety is it's also important because it protects food processing establishment from products recalled which results in financial losses due to unsafe products. So that is why food safety is very important. Now let's find out the food safety rule. You know, there is a food safety rule that we are breaking. Most people break it without knowing it. So they are the dangerous but common food safety mistake that most people can make. Let's look at the safety rule that most people break without knowing it. Skipping out on a simple food safety rule may have a bigger consequences than you think. It may result in a stomach ache. It can have more serious outcome for those with a weaker immune system like yourself, the younger one, or the pregnant women. Let's find out 5 food safety guides that most people forget because they are busy, or they forget because they just don't know any better. The first one is improper hand washing. When it comes to hand washing, most people don't do it often or not or properly. When working in the kitchen, you should wash your hand before cooking and after cooking. The second rule is the frozen on the countertop. Most people make a terrible mistake or terrible habit of this frozen meat or food overnight. During that time, they don't even know that bacteria can multiply over just in 10 hours, which is plenty to make someone sick. So it is better to defrost food by putting it in the refrigerator the night before. If you choose to defrost it in a microwave, be sure to cook it right away, since the meat especially cook at that point. The third rule is a cross contamination. Many people prepare raw materials. The third rule is cross contamination. Many people prepare raw meat and use the same cutting board and utensils to slice vegetable, that is fresh food. That is, you see people making use of their cutting meat at the same time they are using to cut carrots or they are using it to cut garbage. That is what we mean by cross contamination. Is not good without washing it. So this is very bad habit and very harmful. Rule number 4, on the cooking food. Most people use their eyes to determine if food is fully cooked. Unfortunately, this is not the proper way to determine if food is done. The most accurate way is to determine by internal temperature. And finally, the last rule, which is keeping leftover foods for long or for too long. It is not good. Leftover food can be kept for 3 to 4 days in the refrigerator. Be sure to eat them within that time. After that, the risk of food poisoning increases. If you think you will be able to eat leftovers within 4 days, freeze them immediately. Now, I want you to tell me how many or how many of this food safety rule have you broken? How many of this safety rule have you broken? Now let's find out in way we can handle food properly. Now we have seen the mistake that most of us can make, that we don't even know that is a harmful, can cause food poisoning. So let's look at the ways that we can handle food properly. We're going to find out some guidelines in handling food to prevent food contamination. The first one is that you must make sure that you wash your hand with soap and water before and after handling food. Buy food from clean environments or markets. Separate foods when shopping. Select fresh vegetables and fruits. Clean refrigerator once in a week. And all food must be covered with fitting cover, especially cold food. Leftover food or soup should be boiled properly before consumption. Food that have changed from the natural color, odor, or texture should not be purchased or consumed. And make sure you use clean water for cooking. What are the risk factors in raw food items contamination? We want to find out the risk factors in raw food contamination. The consequence of the consumption of any contaminated food is development of disease. So I'm sure you all know that now. So such disease can occur due to consumption of contaminated food called foodborne disease, which are food poisoning and food infection. Let's check them one after the other. Food poisoning. We're starting with food poisoning. Food poisoning is referred to an illness caused by a poison or toxin in the food when eaten. Such poison or toxin are usually produced by microorganisms or the result of some chemical reaction in the food. So food poisoning is not usually serious and most people get better within a few days. Food infection. Food infection is referred to an illness caused by a pathogen organism carried by the food and transmitted to man. Have you ever had a nasty symptoms like a nausea, abdominal pain, fever or diarrhea just after you have eaten something from a street vendor or restaurant? Food infection, also known as a foodborne illness, is caused by eating contaminated food. Infection organisms like bacteria, virus can contaminate the food at any point of processing or production. It can also occur at home if the food is incorrectly handled or not cooked properly. What causes food contamination? Now let's find out common causes of food contamination. Food contamination occur in food that should not be there. That is, it means when something in the food occur that should not be there and make it unfit for human consumption. That's what we mean by food contamination. It occur when something is in the food that should not be there and it make it unfit for human consumption. So there are three ways that food can be contaminated. We have biological hazard, we have chemical, and then we have physical. So we are going to look at them. Biological contamination. Biological contamination includes bacteria, fungi, yeast, mold, viruses, and other microorganisms which can be found in soil, animals, or on people or on the things people touch and use. Of the greatest threat to the food safety is the fact that the bacteria can multiply from just a few cells to millions in a very short period of time. Chemical contamination. Chemical contamination occurs when food comes into contact with or produce toxic chemical which can lead to chemical poisoning, that is food poisoning. Chemical contamination fell into one of these two categories. We have the natural or artificial. Common chemical contamination include detergent. When you make use of detergent, that we use is very, very dangerous. If mistakenly it enter food. We have pesticide, plastic, preservative, or naturally occurred toxin. So all these are common chemical contamination. Physical contamination. Physical contamination is an improper storage of food items and carelessly and unhygienic food handling can get our food contaminated, such that we could find stone in our food, mental rust which can also be harmful to our health. So all these three are the they are the causes of food contamination. We have biological, chemical, and physical contamination. We have come to the end of today's class. Hope you learned a lot. Note that food safety and food hygiene are important as they ensure that the food you handle and produce is safe for consumption. If they are not maintained, consumer yourself could become seriously ill with food poisoning and foodborne illness. Food is not about the quantity, but it is certain about the quality. Always take care of your food and it will also take care of you. Till then, safe food saves life. Bye.